Now we want to build a real workflow within our market update request list. So we're going to start fresh. Except I've gone through and I've added some columns within this list. The first type column that I've added is business type, which is a choice type column where I can select the type of business the market update request applies to, a request date type column that we can add the request date to, and then a Boolean yes no type column to denote if the market update request has been delivered. And this information will be partially filled out between the form and partially filled out within the workflow. We're also using the title column that originally came with this content type of item, where we can say what type of market update request we want and give that a unique title. So what we want to do is build out the form for this, and we'll click on Nintex Forms. That will bring up our Nintex Forms designer, and in interest of time, we're going to go use the responsive type layout. We'll click on responsive, and you'll notice that our designer canvas looks a little bit different now, and it's a little bit more streamlined. We'll keep title, but what I want to do is change the control name for this to request title. And we've already left the column type connected to title, and that's fine, that's what we want. And then next we want to use business type. And I'm okay with having business type remain the name of business type, and it's actually a drop-down type choice. Perfectly fine for me. But what I want to do is consolidate the size of this form, so I will drag business type next to request. Then we have the request date, and having request date here is fine. It doesn't denote the actual value that we want in it, so we're not going to give it a default value of current date or anything. We don't want to have the workflow fill this out for us because this can be a future request date that can be applied, so we'll leave it here. But what we don't want to have is the checkbox for delivered filled out yet. That will be filled out based on if this request has been fulfilled and approved. So what I will do is, as this is not a required field, I'll just go ahead and delete that. And we can leave the attachments box here too. That's perfectly fine. And now we have our form. If we wanted to change the theme on this form, we can go ahead and do that, but we'll just use the original version of the layout and form controls here and theme. So I'll go ahead and publish this form. All right, we've gone ahead and published our form, and we'll head back to the list itself. Next, what we want to do is we want to go and create a workflow. And the purpose of this workflow is someone will go in using the Nintex form to create a new item for what they want as a market request. They can then attach any supplemental documents they want to the item itself, send that out to an approver. The approver can say, yes, we're going to create this update request, notify someone else to deliver that update request, and then we'll mark delivered that the request has been fulfilled. So what we'll do is we'll choose Nintex Workflow and bring open our Workflow Designer canvas. We'll go ahead and create a brand new list workflow, and here we have our designer canvas. So the person goes in, the requester goes in, and they will say, hey, I want to go and ask for a new market update request. And what we want to do is we want to notify them that, well, the workflow is kicked off and that the request is off. So to do that, we'll send them an email. So I'll search for the send an email action. Drag and drop that action on the designer canvas. And then after that, what we want to do is we want to assign a task to the manager to approve this request. So this time I'll go and click on assign a task as the action, and I'll drag that action onto the designer canvas. Now, by default, the assign a task action has an approved and rejected outcome on that action. You can add additional outcomes, but just in the interest of time, we'll leave approved and rejected. Now, if that request has been rejected, we want to notify the initiator that it's been rejected, and we also want to notify them that it's been approved if it has been approved. So I'll click on copy for send an email, and I'll go ahead and paste a send an email action again. So we've got our notifications and we've got our task request done. That's perfectly fine. But what we need to do is we need to mark that delivered item property as true after it's been approved. So what we'll do is we'll update a item value. And what I want to do is update list item. And I'll mark that under approved. So what we've done is we've built the framework out of our workflow here. We're going to send an email out to the initiator of the workflow to let them know that the workflow is kicked off. Then we're going to assign a task out to whoever the approver is to have them decide if the market update request is going to be approved. If it's not approved and it's rejected, we'll send an email out to the initiator to let them know that it's been rejected. If it's been approved, we'll go in to note the delivered section in the list item and say yes, and then we'll send an email out to the initiator to let them know that the workflow has been approved.